Hey, what's going on, everybody? 101 Weekly, episode 19, 19 episodes. And I just want to welcome everybody to the show and welcome everyone. It is the panel. We got Tony today. What's going on, Tony?
Hey, how you doing? All good, all good. Safe and healthy. That's the main thing.
Agreed, agreed. And how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been a quiet week by all, standards compared to the previous 5 weeks. It's been probably the quietest week of all of them, in all honesty.
Yeah, the calm before the storm, as they normally say.
Yeah.
And Bertram, how you getting on? There's a little bit of audio issues, but you look like you're coming in loud and clear now.
Yeah, it's been. Tony said he had a quiet week. I think it's been quiet. If you're home in New York, it's quiet. The surroundings are not quiet. They have no definitive plan about how they're going to open up. I think the most sobering news is, which is interesting, is that if you do the analysis, maybe of every 10 individuals that pass away from the virus, about 8.5 are African Americans.
Yeah.
Between 8 and 8.5, which is a ridiculous number. And there is some perspective that the administration may lose interest. And people don't seem to realize the implications of this and realize that this may actually be not just conspiracy theory. If 8.5 is of a people that you don't have any appreciation for, you don't even care about, frankly, why would you care about not just opening up your cities? There's some repercussions for that, but look, they're not going to vote for you anyway, so why would you care? So interesting.
Yeah, because I sent you a video to watch today in the chat. I'm not sure whether you've watched it, and it was really about and I can talk about this now because Boris Johnson's had his conversation with the UK, which I'll go into for 5 minutes. Moving on, but the disparities between the two countries are quite vast. You've got the UK, who are really telling everybody to stay. Well, actually, no, they're actually trying to say to people, we want you to go out, and the UK are staying in. No, but not that much people are interested in going out. And in America, they're telling everybody to stay in, and everyone's going out. So it's a complete disparity between the two. The video I sent you today was really based on the fact that the president has asked for a 14-day downhill trend before social distances measures are released. And what the governors and senators have taken that as is, oh, right, let's go and release it. And they've just gone and released everything with no 14-day downhill wave. It's just exploded. So it's really weird.
Well, no, I'm not sure he has asked for. So officially, there may be communication around a 14-day wave and have to see a trending downwards for 14 days. But you can't say you provide official guidance and then you say, people in Michigan who protested, it should be open up for them, right? That's a contradictory position to take. So I think people are playing these mind games and playing these games around whether or not, he's saying, well, the economy has to restart. We don't disagree. We have to get going, and that people need to get back to work. And then you can then say, well, oh, by the way, guys, you got to follow these step-by-step guidelines to get you there because you're contradicting your own self. I don't think he really cares. I think he wants it to open up. He's concerned about November, and the quicker the economy opens up, the better the economy rebounds, and the better position he'll be in come November. But I think there's a mistake to think that he wants to follow these. And part of these are CDC guidelines, right? There's a big issue now between the White House and the CDC.
Oh, yeah.
About the guidance the CDC is providing, and they're opposed to it because they think politically, they're not thinking safety.
So and moving on to that, really, that's where we're going to start our first conversation. And guys, I'm only going to spend 5 minutes on this because we've got a lot of football to talk about, man. It's a lot of football to discuss. And so I've looked at this. I looked at it this morning, and in the last 48 hours, I've been driving around London and I've been seeing, because obviously we heard the Scotland and Wales say that they're going to start to release a little bit of the social distancing laws and allow some business to come back. I drove down the road yesterday. I saw flower shop open, barber shop open, hairdresser open, as soon as he said what he said. Just these people assuming that he's going to open everything and let it come back. When I woke up this morning, I saw those rates in the United States where some states of infections have started to double, including death rates. The news this morning that infections, since Germany released the social distancing laws last week, there's massive infections rise in Germany, and the data shows this has happened just days after the country eases the lockdown restrictions. The same cases in South Korea. And remember, South Korea and Germany are two model countries of dealing with the virus. That's why they've been able to relax those social distancing laws. But in both of those instances, both countries have had renewal infections imposed against their countries. And all that spouts is second wave. That's all it spouts. So today, I was really interested to see what Boris Johnson was going to come out and say. And quite frankly, let's go over what Boris is saying. Boris is saying this is not the time to simply end the lockdown this week. He's saying Wednesdays, including allowing people to spend more time outdoors, so you can go out and get more exercise. You can play basketball, tennis, as long as you're practicing social distancing. He's also saying, and this is the roadmap here, yeah, at the earliest of the 1st of June, we believe that we'll be in a position to phase in the reopening of some shops and maybe getting primary pupils back into schools in stages with reception year 1 to 6. So it'd be good to hear what Tony's thoughts are on that. And then by July is the subject to conditions, whether the June has worked, yeah, whether the restrictions that everybody is doing is not going to cause a second wave. If things are starting to plateau and everyone's being sensible about this, then and only then in July will the conditions be lifted, and then they'll start to reopen some of the hospitality industries and public places. So we're talking about restaurants, etc., things like that, and then maybe football. Yeah, but that's where we are right now. And quite frankly, I'm not the biggest Boris fan, as you guys know, but I'm actually impressed that he's listened to what's been going on in the world and thought, whoa, okay, some of these people are walking into a second wave. And he's just completely stamped out and said, look, we're not doing that. Tony, what's your thoughts on that? Let me just put the banner up there for a second.
I think it's just, it depends how you read that statement, Apollo. Things could change as soon as Wednesday. Literally this Wednesday, we're going to see a shifting of opening of venues. We're going to see a different attitude to, literally he's told people who can't work from home, go out to work tomorrow. What do you think that says? So I understand what you're saying about things opening in June. But if you say to somebody, if you can't work from home, go to work tomorrow. Not next week, not Wednesday, not June, tomorrow, Monday, the 11th of May, tomorrow. So just by that and that alone, you're going to get thousands and millions of people going to work tomorrow, because they're going to say, well, hang on. Boris said, if I can't work from home, I must go and do my job.
But also remember, Tony.
He made a caveat. He said, if you can avoid public transport, public transport. But let's be honest, Dean, 1 million people are going to wake up tomorrow. It's pissing down with rain. You are not going to be getting on your bike. You're getting on a bus. You're getting in your car. You're doing whatever you need to do to go to work, because the Prime Minister has said, go to work.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's why at the beginning I said America's saying to everybody, stay in until we see a 14-day, and everyone's just going back out to work. They're ignoring it. But the last time Boris spoke, Boris, which was on the Thursday, I believe it was March the 8th, and he said, yeah, everything's fine, guys. Go back out to work. We're not going to lock it down. And the next day, everyone stayed at home. Nobody listened. So it'd be interesting to see what happens on Monday morning. And obviously me and you will talk as the week goes on, so we can see what actually goes on. What's your opinion on the schools thing, on the reception and 1 to 6 getting back? Hopefully.
So it's not years 1 to 6, it's year 1 and 6. So I've actually got the email from my own school. Came into my inbox within the last 20 minutes. It says they may start with reception year 1 and year 6. So it's only 3 years. Reception are pretty much just babies just come out of Pampers. They're literally the youngest of the young.
Yeah,
so
preschool.
That's not a huge issue. Year 1 and year 6 are totally different because they're normally in separate buildings. Yeah. So reception year 1 and year 6 in a lot of primary schools are in 3 different buildings or in 3 different sections of a school. Year 1, 2 are normally together. Year 5, 6, 7, and 8 are normally together. But in that way, there's only one year group in a section of the school. So you've got, the slightly older kids and the slightly younger kids, and then the very youngest reception. Reception, normally those kids only come in for half a day. So in fact, they split reception between some of you can come for the morning and some of you can come for the afternoon.
Yeah, Tony, you know why I'm smiling? Have you seen that video that comes? It's not a GIF. It's just a video where the parent says, "Yeah, school opens back Monday morning," and she drives her car on the motorway and she kicks the kids out of the car, throws their school bags at them, and then drives off, leave them just because she's sick of the sight of them. It's literally going to be parents next. That's how parents are going to be. Not, they can't wait to get rid of their children because they've been stuck with them for 2 months.
Absolutely.
Bertram, where are you at the moment with New York? New York, I think, is going to be doing the same as what Boris is doing. They're going to lock it down hard.
So I'll comment on both the UK and the US because I do follow both, actually. And I think Boris's experience, given that he went through this, yes, first that knowledge of the implications of it and what it entails, probably allow him to have better empathy and appreciation and thought process around this, because I'm sure he probably doesn't realize where he got it from and understand, especially for more seasoned personnel, what it means for them. I think as I've said this before, what's alarming to me on a global basis is the lack of coordinated leadership across the globe. And it manifests itself in the strategy employed by different countries, especially in the US, different states, around how we get from where we are to, how we got to where we are and how we go from where we're going, wherever that is. And right now, from where I sit, there's a lack of strategy across the globe. It's jumbled, it's not well thought out, it's not linear, and therefore the world is going to continue to struggle. I actually think some of the third world countries with lack of resources have done a much better job than the first world countries. And they've been very proactive in terms of how they're trying to monitor, trace, test, even though they don't have the resources to execute as well as they'd like to. I think you mentioned more, sometimes when you speak, Apollo, you talk about what we do in the States. There is no states as a uniform body. It's not like Boris speaks for all of the UK, for example. We have 50 governors and a bunch of people in the White House are speaking for the US. And then we have mayors who are speaking for their municipalities. We have sheriffs sometimes speaking for their locales. We have a bunch of people across the US, probably hundreds of them, who all have different ability to influence and make decisions about their location, which then results in chaos, frankly. So the White House put out guidance, but it contradicts itself. The mayor, the governor Kemp from Georgia says they should open, and the mayor for Atlanta says this is crazy. That's what you have across the states, which is reflective of a worldwide address to something which you mentioned a second wave. We're not in the second wave yet. The second wave is in the summer. We're in the first wave, but it's a stop and start, because what people seem to realize is that we have been doing social distancing, I'd say, across the globe, apart from maybe China to some extent, and maybe South Korea been hit earlier. And we still have a lot of deaths across the world.
So, Bertrand, I'm not saying we're in the second wave. I'm saying that the potential for it is being there, and we've seen warning signs from South Korea and Germany with increased numbers because they've relaxed their laws. You're right. The biggest, and again, I'm going back to the videos I shot this week, which really talked about this. The biggest issue in the Spanish flu 100 years ago was the second wave. That's what caused 70% of the 50 million deaths. Go on.
Yeah, but I think people always use analogy, right? If we talk about now economic challenge, we talk about 2008, which was different, right? People want benchmark to use to inform their view about how to think about a current immediate situation. And sometimes it's never exactly the same. There are nuances and elements that are materially different. So for example, 2008, I never had a problem in 2008. That's my best year getting compensated in financial services, frankly. I'll be frank about it. I never felt the pain, right? But now everyone feels the pain. Even if you're getting compensated now, you're still feeling the pain because you're locked up in your house, right? It's a totally different the unemployment numbers we have in the States compared to then, they're getting to be material different in terms of what they are. So I would say that there's no analogy that I see that's reflective of what we're experiencing today. And we have no idea how to get out of this. Zero. So the only solution appears to be, and it's going to sound really probably asinine, which is, you let the society out and whatever happens. That's where we're going to, actually. That's where we're going, which is, you know what? You either have it, you don't have it, develop immunity, or you don't. And those who are vulnerable, they're collateral damage. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and you've just repeated exactly what I said at the end of the video that I shot yesterday, and I was quite miffed because all of the time I wasn't really researching that part of it that deeply in America, and then when I did my homework on it and realized some of these people have run out of money and they're running out of food. And I'm here sitting and saying, why are you in a rush to go back to work? What are you doing? You're going to put yourself at risk. And it's a situation where, well, if they don't go back out to work, they live into paycheck to paycheck, then they're going to starve to death anyway. So either I'm dead if I starve to death, or either way I'm buggered. So I have to go out there. I've got no choice. And
but you always quoted in previous telecasts that we've had that what the percentage is of people who live paycheck to paycheck?
62%.
So if you live paycheck to paycheck, that means if you're not getting a paycheck, there's a problem. You have rent to pay, you have your bills to pay. Yeah. And this is not like some third world country you can go do your farming on the side and you have food to eat. You don't have to worry about the other amenities like electricity and phone. You don't have that in big city with density. And the problem that London's and the New York and the Seouls and the Tokyo and the Hong Kong faces is you have density, you have public transportation, you have tourism, all of these factors which lend themselves to say, no matter what you do, you're going to have problems, major problems. So I have no inclination to take the subway to go to work. And I take the subway almost every day, and I can't see me being on the subway anytime soon.
And this is why it's important for Boris to come out with what I thought was a roadmap today. We got a roadmap. We got some direction of where we're going. And I think that's what America's missing. That America's just missing a roadmap to people want to know what's happening. I think if you did that, that would alleviate all the protests. It would alleviate all the rush for people to, well, not all of it, but most of it, because then people have an idea of where they're going to be in the next 2 or 3 months. In the UK now, we have an idea. We know what's going on. So it's time for people to be patient and just really sit back and relax and again, carry on practicing what we've been doing, but then allow the freedom that we've been given at the same time. Ebony, nice to see you, man. I'm sorry.
Hello.
I didn't get you. You're normally in the chat room at 7:45, so when I didn't see you earlier, I got a bit concerned.
I had to do some rushing around,
No problem. Did you get to listen to Boris's conference?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he spent the first couple of minutes waffling. That's when I went out, and then I listened to bits of it in the car. So basically, what he's saying is that people can go to work if they feel safe to do so. So I feel that there is a discouragement of social gathering. If that's the case, then lots of people now might feel that either they can go to work again because they cannot do their jobs at home, or it's a case of loads and loads of people pretending that they're going to work and using that as an excuse just to, use public transport. But at least he's kind of saying, well, if you feel safe to go to work, then do so. What else did he say? He said something about sunbathing. People can sunbathe, but yeah, exactly. People can sunbathe, but then you can't see your families. Help me make that make sense. So you can sunbathe, okay, fine. Well, people are doing that anyway, but you can't see your loved ones. Go figure. You know what I mean? This is why, when he opened his mouth, because I thought, oh, right, it's only 15 minutes. Okay, fine, because I thought it was going to be half an hour. And then he started to waffle like he normally does, even in the House of Parliament, he waffles. And then he says things like that. It's like, really? you know, I mean, at least he's given people the option to go to work if they feel safe to do so. And I know that there's a lot of people that don't feel safe to step out of their house, let alone go to work. I've not had a problem, and if I'm honest, you know, it's like I've gone out more than once. I'm not gonna lie, okay? But I don't feel that I have the virus. I haven't had any symptoms, but I've washed my hands, I've kept with basic hygiene, and I've gone out because I'm doing things, not because I'm just walking around aimlessly.
Yeah.
What else did he say? Did he say something about? He said something about schools, didn't he?
Yeah. So he gave a timeline with June,
June?
which is the first and 1 and 6, and then he talked about in July having things a little bit more relaxed.
Well, I mean, with schools, I mean, you know, okay. So school in the United Kingdom ends in July, so and then that breaks up for 6 weeks holiday.
But remember, Ebony, most of them were given their results already because they told the teachers just go with what they were doing. Go with. So a lot of these schools have already been given their results.
But what is the point of what you might as well wait till September for them to go back to school?
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, you know, because you know we're almost in mid-May. School breaks up in 2 months. You know, you might as well wait till September, and even then, you know, would there be parents out there that are afraid to send their children back to school? You know, if you're going to send them,
some parents are struggling to stay at home with their children and do their jobs. They will be overjoyed to send their children back to school. Don't forget, I'm a teacher. I know what they're going through.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you have that, but then also you've got parents who I guess are happy to have their children at home because of the whole coronavirus, and you know, children, they don't know anything about, they don't know the basics of social distancing. You can't social distance children unless, of course, you send them back to school if you stagger the schooling. So if you send certain children to school at a certain time between 9 and 12, and then the rest at 12 to 3, and then space them out. I don't know how that's going to work.
This is a disaster, guys. Seriously, isn't this a disaster?
I mean, even transport, you know, public transport in London, you know, I mean, I don't know whether you've seen images, but, you know, there are images of public transport, London Underground in particular, where the trains are packed. You can't social distance on London Underground in rush hour.
I think that's why I'm saying to people, just if you can drive in or take a bike or whatever.
So guys, question.
Not everybody's got a car, not everybody's got a bike, not everybody has the confidence to ride a bike because you have too many idiots out on the road in vans and cars, etc. So, and not everybody has a car like myself, and not everybody has the ability to walk to work. So, and you've also got to take into consideration that not everybody has the choice of what time they start work. Okay, they may have to go into work during rush hour. They've got no choice. So if people
we'll have to see how it goes. We'll have to see.
Everybody's different, and you know, there is a lot of scaremongering as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so so if people feel that they can go to work and they feel confident that they're not going to catch anything, then let them be. Let those people be. But at the same time, I get that people are scared. I get people because there are some nasty, unhealthy people or unhygienic people out there. So I get that. I also get the fact that, you know, there are people out there with mental health issues. They're not even being spoken about. So you know, there's so many issues here, but I just think the whole thing's a mess. I don't think anything's been thought out through, to be quite honest with you. You know, this whole big furore. Oh, Boris is going to make a speech, and he just says that, and now we have to wait till tomorrow for a bigger speech. It's just,
so I have one point. So, who protect the parents from the kids?
Yeah.
No, let's think about this, right? So I'm sending my kids. I'm sending my kids to school in a community setting. They're engaging with other kids, and as you mentioned, Ebony, rightly, kids are not going to social distance because it's innate to them to want to play together and socialize together and engage, no matter what the schools want to do. So when they go home to their parents and their grandparents and whoever's at home, who protects those individuals, the more seasoned, older individuals who are susceptible to the disease, from their kids? Are the kids going to get quarantined while they're in school? How does that work?
Yeah, I don't. We're going to have to wait and see. Like Tony said, we sit back and then
And there's
see.
also one other
Yeah.
thing as well.
Yeah, I mean,
There's also one other.
just because I work in a school, I can tell you for a fact. You know, I was in school for 2 weeks before the shutdown actually stopped the schools working, and that entire 2 week period, I knew that if this virus was in any way contagious, like they said it was just going to manifest itself in households left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And that is just, you know, because you know, if you understand anything about how kids play, you will understand.
Yeah.
You know, kids, like I said, you know, children don't know anything about social distancing. All they know is play together, be together, and hug one another. That's what we used to do as children. And now we're being told that children can't do it. But then there's one other thing that needs to be mentioned, is that our borders in the United Kingdom still haven't been closed. So we're still accepting flights.
Yeah, but there's a 14-day quarantine now in, so we'll have to see how that.
I think your border should be closed.
Ages ago.
I think your border should be closed to protect the rest of the world from you guys.
Right.
Yeah. Listen, look what we did to Jamaica. But anyway, guys, let's run into this because there's a lot to discuss. And guys in the chat, I want to get your feedback on this. Evening, Rodney. Evening, Stu. 18, Kez. Arsenal vlogs. Nice to see you guys all in the chat. Need you guys to give me your opinions on this because there's a lot to discuss. To the panel, Tony, Bertram, and Ebony, do you want me to run through the whole lot or shall we do it piece by piece?
I don't mind.
There's a lot to go through. Okay, so initially, the Premier League are going to have their meeting tomorrow, and that's going to obviously discuss where they are as far as a start date, if there can be any. But over the last 48 hours, we have been thrown we've been thrown a curveball at literally every angle. And so let's run through that, shall we? The first is obviously Brighton have become the third team to obviously disagree with most of the plans, along with Watford, Aston Villa, who have refused the proposals of the neutral grounds. Also, three Brighton players now have tested positive, and they'll have to isolate for 14 days. So that obviously creates an issue. The chairman, Paul Barber, told Sky Sports, despite all the measures that we've been taking over the past few weeks to get football back, the players haven't been involved in any significant training at all. And this is what I was saying to Tony. I think Tony asked me a question today about how fit do the players have to be or anything like that. The players are not training. They're keeping busy at home. They've been told to do certain treadmill work and whatever, but they're not in football shape. And we were told last week by the FA that they'll need 2 to 3 weeks to get into football shape. So that's not going to happen because they're not even back in training now. So that's not going to happen. We were then told yesterday that they will allow up to 7 substitutes. Because remember, we're talking about playing 2 to 3 games a week. So not only are they not fit, but 7 substitutes, is that going to work? Is that going to be a thing? And guys, please stop me at any time because there's so much to run through here. So initially, the meeting's going to be on Monday, and that's where they're going to have a vote. And a lot's going to be discussed. I've talked to you guys before about part of the problem is if the league doesn't finish before the end of July the 31st, then players' contracts will cease to exist. And those players can just drop their boots on the table and say, all right, guys, I know you're battling for regulation, or I know you're battling for a Champions League spot or whatever, but I'll see you later. Yeah? They're allowed to do that. So I believe part of the solution, and that's what we're here to talk about today, is how can this thing work? Because there's so many factors that are throwing this out the window. And I said to you guys earlier on, now I understand why some leagues have been voided, because I had no idea that it was so complex in terms of getting this off the ground. But one of the solutions, although I'll just say my solution, one of the solutions is in tomorrow's meeting is to extend that levy on contracts and loans and things like that, so that you don't have so you don't have such a problem in terms of finishing the league. Tony, go and say what you're going to say.
Okay, so yeah, that was going to be one of the major caveats of that, is essentially saying, okay, guys, here's your situation. You can be out of contract on the 31st of July and receive no paycheck in August whatsoever. Or you can extend with us for a month and say, we need to complete a season by August 30th, and we'll pay you on August 30th for the extension, for the additional month that you signed into. Because let's be honest, there are some leagues that you could say, well, if you're going to go to the French league, they don't have to pay you until you sign a contract. Well, guess what they're going to be doing? They're going to be saying, well, we don't know when football's going to be, so we ain't going to sign you until we need you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get this clear. The Premier League are in a strong situation when it comes to contracts, because they should just go to the clubs and say, you know what? At the end of the day, we're going to complete the season. If the season needs to finish by July 31st, but they can't get it started till mid-June, you extend it till the end of August. If you can't fill the team from July 31st to August 30th, that's your cake. You need to negotiate with those players who are out of contract. Well, let's be honest, that's only going to be 4 or 5 players.
What, per each team?
Per team. That's not the whole team.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
You're talking about a squad of 25. You're talking. Hang on. Let me finish. You're talking about a squad of 25 players. Yeah. If 3 players say, "I don't feel safe, I don't want to play," yeah, and another 4 players are out of contract on July 31st, you've lost 7 players. So let's just say out of your squad of 25, you've got 7 players that don't want to play or decided they're not going to continue their contract. Then you've got another 4 players, yeah, who are injured. Yeah, despite having had extra time to recover, they're still injured. Yeah, you still have enough squad to put 11 players on the field and a further 4 players on the bench.
11 unfit players. Yeah, but you're right.
Listen,
yeah,
as I said to you, if the season doesn't start on, let's say, June 15th, and it has to start on June 30th, c'est la vie. Yeah? If you haven't, listen, we're at May the 10th. Do you think a footballer should be able to get ready by June the 10th?
Well, the physicist and the doctor said it takes 3 weeks to get to match fitness.
You and I have both been athletes, and we both know it ain't going to take me 4 weeks to get reasonably fit. Listen, I'm a 51-year-old man. I can play football for 90 minutes, not at the speed of the Premier League, but I can still play for 50 minutes. The other day, just 3 days ago, I ran 20 miles. I'm 51 years old. Are you telling me a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, 30-year-old man can't get fit in 4 weeks? You're taking a piss if you can't do that.
Yeah, I think it's a different kind of fitness they're talking about.
It's not. There's a thing called muscle memory, Dean.
Yeah, I get that. But Tony, they won't be fit to play 90 minutes at the tempo that the managers want them to. That's just the norm, Tony.
What have they done? Have they stuffed themselves silly?
No, they haven't been playing football. They haven't been playing football for 2 months.
It takes me 4 weeks. I'm 51 years old.
And the thing is, the fear about that, Tony, would be if you haven't been playing football for 2 months and you just been out there thrown to the fire, that's going to make you more susceptible to injuries. You know that.
Nobody's throwing anybody to the fire, Dean. Yeah? You've got 4 weeks to get fit. You've got 4 weeks. Yeah.
Well, 3 according to the medical teams.
No. If you're not,
we have to listen to them, Tony. They're the specialists.
Hang on. Let me tell you something. If Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang ain't ready by the 10th of June, I guarantee there's a kid called Eddie Nketiah who will be ready by the 5th of June. Yeah.
We'll have to see how that plays.
That theory is the glass half empty theory. I
don't know, because that's what Tony. This is what the FA and the medical teams and the doctors are saying. They said it last week. So it's not fear mongering. It's preparation.
The German league starts next week.
Yeah, Tony. I tell you,
starts next week. Apollo.
Tony.
So guys,
when Ceballos came back from injury, Arteta didn't play him for a month. And the reason was because he said he wasn't match fit. Yeah, that was a month. So you can't stand there and say that what Arteta wants them to do. And the reason why they're increasing the substitutes to 7 is because they know they won't last.
Okay, let me tell you something.
So guys, I think guys, I don't think we're gonna we look. It is much more complicated than we're even saying here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just thinking about players and 25 players. My concern, if I'm playing, I don't want anybody breathing on me. I don't want anybody between 6 feet of me. I'm not taking the virus home to my wife and kids and my grandparents. No, seriously, think about this. This is a fundamental thing. We're talking about players and injuries and who may not want to play. There is a fundamental basis of this. This is not UFC, guys. And UFC, Dana White control UFC and control the fighters. It's a very controlled environment. And even then, they had someone on their team tested positive. People are extremely concerned about this. And in New York here, we're seeing some new thing come up with kids who are very, very young kids. They're not sure if it's a virus or not. There are a lot of things that are spinning off this, a derivative of this whole virus concept.
Yeah, too much of
creating much more. Exactly. So I look, this is much more complicated. It's all about the money, right? The Premier League need to get paid. And the problem is, as they go through the process, and it's a democratic process. This is not China where we have a dictatorship where we say, you know what, guys, we're playing and we're done. We're not talking about it. Everybody has a say. So if Brighton is protesting, if Aguero is protesting, so you're talking about teams, owners, players. No. But one player we have heard from, Tony. Think about this. There's going to be a lot of players who are saying, I don't want to play because I'm putting my health at risk. You can't compensate. And where's the litigation if a player... Look, if a player ever dies, the Premiership would take a reputational risk. It will take a while to recover from.
Okay. Sorry, but I'm not buying into that. Oh,
that's fine. If you're not buying into it, Tony, that's fine.
All I'm saying is look at Germany if you want to see about buying. Because if you was expecting this huge clamor of players to say, I don't want to be involved in this, you would have seen similar numbers in Germany.
Tony, when Germany start playing, talk to me. When Germany start playing, they just tested players who tested positive, and they're realizing now here's the thing, guys, we're missing. We have been in this case with a lot of people dying with social distancing. I repeat this, because I think people are missing this whole equation about opening up society.
I'm definitely not, bro. I'm way on it, man.
we have been having people dying and people getting infected with social distancing globally, and the numbers keep reproducing exponentially every day. Do you imagine when we lift social distancing, what happens? Think about this. Those players will tell you, Tony, go jump off a bridge. There's no way I'm going to be around anyone. Forget about field and television and to be interviewed. I'm not going to be around anyone, period. I'm going to be my family locked up because I can afford to be locked up. I don't have to go to work.
What happened in Germany then? Explain that.
Germany hasn't occurred yet. I keep telling you this.
Germany's got their own.
Starting their season next week, bro.
No.
But Tony, listen to this, Tony. First of all,
we'll come on to Germany in a minute. We'll come into Germany in a minute. Have you got anything to throw in there, Ebony?
Look, I think that if players are not comfortable with playing because they feel that they're going to catch something, then they should be listened to. Again, every team has I don't know a squad of 25 that can be rotated around. If certain players don't want to play because they're worried about their health, then use the players that can play. It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah, which is what Tony said.
I mean, that's the only solution, because because what you have to remember is that, yes, it's about money. Yes, the Premier League brings in so much money a year, but then people's consideration has to be thought about. If people are scared, let them stay at home. Let them come. Yeah. Let them come back out when they feel comfortable. Otherwise, I don't know how any player is going to be protected from coronavirus. Nobody knows unless you spray them with some disinfectant spray.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to come on to. So in Germany, so remember I talked about Brighton have just announced that 3 players have come down with coronavirus. Do you remember 2 weeks ago, that's what happened with FC Cologne in Germany? 3 players. What happened after that? I'll talk about that so we can have a conversation about that. What happened after that is Germany, adjacent to getting this league started, permitted 1,724 tests throughout the whole league. When they did that, 10 players were found with coronavirus. That's 10 players. and all of that has been backtracked and monitored and everything else. Yeah. What's come out of that now is, and this is this is the thing right here. Another two players from Dynamo Dresden has announced on Saturday that they have the virus. So remember, this is the most safest country in Europe, Germany. Yeah, this is the company that is the model country for dealing with the coronavirus, and these things are happening for football. That's supposed to come back, as Tony said, next weekend. What's happened now is the entire squad and the coaching staff has been put into a 2-week isolation quarantine. Yeah, that's out of 1,700 tests. Remember, there are more players in, obviously, the Premiership. The Premiership's a lot bigger league, but we're talking about a model country dealing with coronavirus against one that has the highest deaths and nearly the highest death rates. It's a complete different side of the coin. And this is the reason why what Bertram just alluded to in terms of, what's going to happen, what's out there, we're going into the unknown. If Germany are facing those problems now, what's going to happen to us? And we're sitting down looking at Germany and so are all the other leagues, to find out what's going to happen. The fact that Germany have had now 15 cases and an entire squad, an entire whole team and coaching staff put into 2-week isolation. So there's us saying German Bundesliga is going to start next weekend. Well, guess what? A whole team cannot play. A whole team is in quarantine now.
What you carefully did was you carefully worked a way to put that situation in, but didn't work out that you could have also said at the same time that the second division in which Dresden play have worked out a workaround around them. And let's not forget, the team that has 2 players and have gone into isolation does not mean you can't train. Does not mean you cannot prepare for your football game in 2 weeks. The day you come out of isolation, you can play a game.
Sorry, Tony. Workaround.
I have a follow-up for Tony. So, Tony, we're playing a game. It's the second week of the going back to work. Playing Arsenal. 2 Arsenal players test positive. The day before a game we're gonna play, what happens?
Game gets the 2. Oh,
Tony, I'm trying to explain. All right, Tony, let me say this before you answer.
Right.
Let me say this before you answer. I'm trying to explain that Germany are the model country. They are the best at dealing with this pandemic in Europe, and they are having problems with players who have been quarantined. A team that has had to completely forfeit for 2 weeks. They're the best country.
They're not forfeiting.
They're quarantining. They're quarantining for 2 weeks. Yeah,
right, they haven't lost anything. They've lost no points.
They can't train.
But Tony, you haven't answered my question though. Tony, you haven't answered my question. Tony, you haven't answered my question. You haven't answered my question. Two players get infected. Wait, middle of the season, 2 players get infected from a couple of teams. What happens?
Two players get.
2 Arsenal players get infected and 2 Spurs players get infected, and they've been tested during when we started back. Yeah. What happens? What happens?
They go into isolation just the same way Dresden have.
The 2 players or the entire team?
The entire team.
And when do they play again?
2 weeks after they come out.
And then we had 2 other players get infected. You can see how this can extrapolate, right? And
well, that's what I'm trying to explain to.
Let's be honest, yeah. If you get tested and you get put into isolation for the duration of the rest of the season, you can play.
And by the way, Tony, it's not always 2 weeks.
Let me explain this to you, Bertram. You can isolate a whole team as Dresden are doing, and they should have no contact with anybody in the outside world bar the same players in their team.
Right. But here's the thing, Tony. The society is going to be opened up. So all those players are going to socialize. Remember? No.
Yeah, they have been.
Wait. So are you saying the players are going to be quarantined? All the players?
9 Premiership players have been caught breaking the rules.
Okay,
9.
But they're not an isolation team.
Of course they are.
Quarantine isolation like Dresden players.
Oh, all right, hold on a second. Am I missing something here? Because in the last 2, all the Premiership teams have told their players to stay at home and self-isolate. Am I missing something?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have. But it's been
What you're
follow the
missing
rules of the
is,
country.
yeah, they're in isolation in their own home, where they can get COVID from their family members, their cooks, their chef, their gardener, who's coming in and doing whatever he has to do.
Because we've learned from Ian Wright's interviews with a few players and whatever that they've had people come into their homes doing various things.
Thank you very much.
When we saw the NFL draft live, all three of us that was watching it, a couple of people, not mentioning any names, actually, let's talk about the Kansas
One of
City
your boys.
Titans, yeah, actually had his barber come to his house. So listen, there's us thinking that these people are playing it safe, but that's only me reiterating and enforcing the fact here that Germany are the best at doing this, and we, by our figures, are one of the worst. What do you think is going to happen, Tony, Ebony, and Bertram, when the Premier League tests every single one of their players, and in the Championship? How much people do you think is going to have coronavirus? You think none?
Okay, so here's what I look at. If you test your players,
No, but there's going to be a few. There's going to be a few, isn't there? I mean,
there's not going to be a few. There's definitely going to be some people, because what we've got to remember is most of these people who have got it are asymptomatic. They didn't know they had it. Yeah, I might have it right now because my children are going between houses. Yeah, they go to their mum's house, they come to my house. Yeah, the moment you test, like my children are in right now, they've had a test on Tuesday. They're in their bubble. They cannot move out of the house. Yeah, so this is what should be happening. You should be tested and go into your bubble, and no one should be allowed to enter or exit. If you do that, you risk the entire framework of this whole thing.
So will that be a case? So is that going to be a case of okay? So as players enter the ground or their training ground, they're going to be tested because
so
every player.
If you're an athlete, you can go into a bubble with your team and your trainers. Yeah. The team will look back in the day. They used to call it Sopwell House. You remember? You know Sopwell House, right, Dean? The whole Arsenal team would be at Sopwell House on the Thursday night and the Friday before a game on a Saturday at Arsenal if they were playing at home. The whole team.
So guys,
we're not saying it's impossible, but Tony, you're asking these sometimes irresponsible rich millionaires to be locked up for 2 months, not 2 weeks, not 2 days, 2 months, and not socialize with anyone outside their own team and their traders and support staff.
Yeah.
It's possible. Is it probable that they won't get themselves in some hot water? Impossible.
Look, 7 days ago, I was saying that I didn't think that they had the capability to bring football back. 7 days later, today, now I've seen players aren't fit, no training dates given, more players testing positive, contracts are running out. You can see why other leagues have forfeited, because I had no idea that there was this amount of stuff that needed to be not worked on but agreed. Let's use that key word, agreement. There needs to be an agreement to get this thing going. And it strikes me now that there's a massive uphill battle to get this ball rolling, because seriously, these guys, I mean, you know what the latest was today? That they're asking players to sign waivers. They're asking players. So if you're a player, why would you sign a coronavirus waiver? To say, oh, if something happens to me, the Premier League are not liable. You wouldn't sign it. I wouldn't sign it.
It's all about money, though, isn't it?
It's all about money. But if you're a player, and like Bertram said, I'm already loaded, I got money. Why do I have to sign a waiver for you to cover your ass? So if I go back to work and something happens to me and I fall greatly ill or whatever happens, you're not liable. Hell no.
It's called we need bodies. It's called we need bodies to start playing ASAP. So therefore, if anybody falls sick, we can just say, well, you know, they knew the risks.
Let's be honest.
That's what it's about.
That is, and no one's going to sign it.
It's just a rich boy's. It's just a rich boy's piece of paper. But let's be honest. We're all going to be going out to work in a month's time. Ebony's already at work. I will be at work. Yeah. We haven't had to sign a waiver. We've just been
Exactly.
told, you know what? Come in if you want to. If you feel afraid, don't come in. Ebony, have you got the choice to go to work or not?
No, no, because at
So
the end of the day, unless I fall sick, then I have to let all my managers and supervisors know. Okay, if I fall sick, but there could be a time when, because of this whole crisis, you know, because I know what I'm like in the summertime. I get hay fever and I get it really bad to the point where I need to stay at home. The last thing I want is somebody telling me, oh, well, you must have it. I know I don't have it because I know what my body's like. And that could be the same, and that could be the same with anybody. That could be the same with players who know their bodies, who may get hay fever. They may be sick. You know, has that been taken into consideration?
I don't think you know. That's why asymptomatic is you don't know you have it. You may think you don't have it because you don't have any symptoms or anything that suggests that you do. But a lot of people walking around are the more danger to society because they have no inclination that they have the virus and they're spreading it like wildfire. That's what we've seen quite a bit in a number of different societies. Look, I think there's a conundrum here, and there is no easy solution to any of this.
Let's again get back to not overemphasizing society. This virus has affected 14 countries. If you go outside of 14 countries, the number of deaths is less than 300 per country. Yeah, it'd be like saying, well, let's count San Marino. San Marino has the highest death count or the highest death rate of anywhere in the world. Yeah, but San Marino has a population less than 1,000 people. Yeah, what country is second highest when it comes to death rate?
But Tony, I think what you're telling, it's not 14 countries. There's much more countries than 14. And
secondly, only 14 countries have a problem.
No, maybe 14 European countries, maybe 14 European countries, but not 14 countries. And guys, listen to this. Here's what we're missing.
About society, are you talking?
Yeah, I think we're going off key, Tony. Let's not talk about death rates. Let's just talk about infections, because if you're dead, you're dead. But if you're infected, you can't play. Yeah.
No, but Apollo, people are missing timelines. People are missing timelines. For example, Brazil is seen a significant spike because their president, as normal at the Philippines president, same dictatorial type way of operating, doesn't believe in some of these things, right? And so Brazil is seeing about 10,000 cases per day, or whatever it is, of new infected rate. It's spreading.
About Belarus.
But it's not spreading at the same rate. Not every country. For example, Italy got hit much harder than the UK initially. Yeah. So it's Italy, Spain, then we have the UK. Belgium has been hit pretty hard. Yeah. It's going at a certain rate for different country locations. For example, Jamaica is seeing much more spike, even though they're less than 1,000, because of they have call centers, for example. So you're seeing it now in the Caribbean more. And we cut off travel. They've cut off travel between themselves and the rest of the world, basically. So travel.
So again, the most important thing here is we're talking about football coming back. We're talking about what's the solution to try and get it back, because right now I can't see a workable solution. I know more now than I did 7 days ago, and it looks even less likely to. These developments underline the difficulties and the natures of the whole concept of Project Restart is facing. This Project Restart is facing 10 times more issues than we thought it was going to be. And how tough the debate right now is how tough it has become. With each passing day, more and more obstacles have been thrown their way. That's what I'm trying to get across here.
So here's the analogy. Here's the analogy. So we talk about living from paycheck to paycheck and having to stay home, right? So the analogy with the Premier League is you have billions of dollars at stake, and you're saying, well, I'm not going to pay and forego all that billions of dollars. That's very difficult for anyone to digest and get comfortable with. And that is sort of forcing people to think very creatively about how they can get back on the field. It's not about who wins. Nobody cares about who wins anymore. It's just completing the season. It's completing the season. It's get paid and think about next season. And that's been very difficult to do, given all the iterations of things you have to sort of think about to be able to even get on the field in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, guys, I said last week, football is entirely unimportant to the context of public health crisis. That has to come first. And what we're seeing is these guys, as all of you have said, are trying to push this money thing going because they don't want to lose their money. They want to get this thing working, and all and above. With, I mean, even Steve Parish, he's the chairman for Crystal Palace. He said in the in last week's meeting, and he's going to be at the meeting tomorrow as well. Unless Premier League clubs can find a way to stage matches soon, it's going to be very, very unlikely that there'll be any football until next season. And he was speaking on BBC's, was it Andrew Marshall? Yeah, he said initial plans for league matches to be staged again for June is completely unfeasible, and all the owners know it. This is something are we living in denial here?
So guys, are we missing something? Are we missing something? Go ahead, Ebony.
No, I mean, even if it's a case of playing behind closed doors, again, there are players that are still scared of getting into contact with other players. So, you know, I mean, today's what, the 10th of May. If the 1st of June is not that far off, if they're thinking of starting it in June,
they're not going to meet that date. I can promise you they're not going to meet that date.
So here's the question, guys. The most important question is, what's the financial implications if they don't play?
I did the math before on one of my videos, and I believe it's somewhere around the Sky deal is 18 million per team, which is not for fitting the actual Sky deal money. Sponsorship, I have no idea. I have no idea about that. It'd be great for me to look into how that works, but I'm not sure what the implications would that be. We know about the gate and concessions money. That's gone. That's lost. Even if the football came back, they would have lost that anyway. But it's you know, and this is the thing. When you have a business, you map out your gains and losses, and you work your salaries and your payments and everything accordingly to what money comes in. If that money doesn't come in, your whole business plan is thrown out the window. That's why we're seeing all this talk about players taking pay cuts and all this stuff and whatever. But it just seems now that it isn't just like UFC. It isn't about just two players getting into the ring and throwing punches and whatever. There are so many contractual issues with and issues for players' fitness. That the reason why we're hearing now 7 substitutes and all this stuff and players' contracts being extended is because right now, as we speak, it's not workable. They have to forget right now, just as Parish said, the chairman of Crystal Palace, the Premier League clubs have to find a workable solution now. Because it's unfeasible. It is impossible to start playing football with what we have right now. It's unworkable.
Yeah, I think in Europe, you guys complicate the whole contract situations. You complicate it. It's very simple here. I have a contract. It's etched in stone. We don't have an issue. I get paid. I don't care what happens to you. You go figure out your revenue challenges. I'm getting paid. You don't hear a lot of people talking here around, well, are this player's going to take a pay cut and make them shame them to taking a pay cut? I haven't heard that here. Players may decide to do it if ESPN can't pay or whatever it is, but ESPN has to figure out how to play. There's a contract in place. You want to go bankrupt? That's your problem. Pay me. Simple.
Bertrand, what's the situation with the NBA? Forgive me, but I haven't actually looked it up.
They are struggling to figure out when, just like everyone else, it's the same complication. We're talking about crowds playing in empty stadiums. We're talking about players engaging each other in a very close environment and the implications there for the virus. We're talking about states not even opening in some cases, like in New York. The Knicks going to play, and New York hasn't opened up. So it's not like the UK where you have one uniform way of operating. Boris Johnson sort of set the stage and provided guidance. Everybody follows it. We have 50 states here, plus municipalities, and they all do their own thing. So it'd be very difficult to have that uniformity you're looking for. And even college, Tony talked about college football. Even there, some of the administrators are saying, you know what, if we start, not every team will start at the same time. I have no idea what that means. It's all over the place because people are just talking off the top of their head. They don't know. They haven't strategized. They haven't figured it out and said, you know what, let's really sit down and think through every single possible scenario that could preclude us from executing and get our teams up on the field. They haven't done that. They have done this sort of topical way of thinking about things to appease themselves or get comfortable and realize, as you're doing here now, and as you've seen, Apollo, which is, oh my God, we think about A and B and C and D and E. Well, that's what you should be doing for the last month. Is thinking about all these scenarios.
They didn't. Yeah. They
That's
didn't.
what
Let's be honest. Let's be honest, guys. If these people who are running the organization have not been thinking about this and haven't worked ways out, then they're culpable for they're negligent. Because let's be honest, you know, Dana White took a punt 2 months ago and realized that UFC 249, which was due to headline in Vegas, wasn't going to happen. Yeah, he couldn't get his headline guy, Khabib Nurmagomedov, to come over because he was locked down. So he made an alternative plan in a place that he thought would be opened up. And guess what? Ching, ching, ching. He rang his money chain yesterday because Florida's opened up. He put on his event. He didn't have any people, but people paid to watch it. And it was a success by what I...
So guys, here's the difference. Here's the difference. Dana White is China, right? Dana White is China. No, but I'm serious. That's the analogy.
Really?
Dana White is China in terms of his ability to execute with no opposition. There is no opposition. We're talking the Premier League, talking about Brighton protesting and Watford.
Well, hang on a second.
All these. Wait, it's a democracy.
If that is the case, the SEC, yeah, and this is someone I follow because my cousin plays for Florida State. The SEC, the biggest football company in the whole of America, bigger than the NFL, bigger than the NBA, yeah, is ready.
Yeah,
my cousin is scrimmaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the SEC may, guys, the SEC may do what he wants to do as a conference, but SEC will have to answer to the NCAA. I think we're missing this boat, right? The NCAA runs college sports, not the SEC, who's a big football conference that's down south, and the South does what they want to do, and the South are all aligned, right? Mississippi's open, Alabama is open, Tennessee's open. Yeah. The South is a whole different, almost different country or region by themselves. This is not the East Coast. This is not the West Coast, who are more conservative and more blue states. That's why I keep saying you can't use an analogy around Dana White. I mean, what did Bob Arum say about Dana White? There's a lot of people are upset with Dana, but Dana, guys, listen to this. There's some organizations who have made up well in this crisis. The Walmarts of the world, right? The Amazons of the world. There'll be people who profit from scenarios, doomsday scenarios, as we're seeing, which is what Dana did, because Dana's a businessman. But at the end of the day, UFC is a total different animal than a democratic PL. It just is. There's no comparison.
I mean, from what we know,
there is a comparison. There is a comparison because ultimately, you think that the PL is far more democratic in its makeup, but let's be honest, it's not.
I mean, the NFL, Tony, is full forward, but that's because they know that they can start in September. Or, I mean, right now they're talking about one preseason game. They don't even like playing preseason anyway. I'd be surprised if they play one preseason game. But they're full swing. They have not for 1 minute wavered, which is why I've questioned NBA. Right now, NBA should be playoffs, should be the finals right now.
No, Apollo, I'm not sure people are realizing this. So if I have September coming, I got to plan as if September is going to materialize and happen. I can't show any dissension. I can't show any concern about what's going to transpire. I'm optimistic that September comes. They got to start training in June, frankly, at the latest to get to September. And I don't think the NFL will start in September. That's my view. The virus will determine when all these events occur.
Of course.
The virus will determine the NFL starts, when college football starts, when NBA starts. That's the virus determining that, not some human who sits in their Eiffel Tower and say, we will totally play because this happens. The virus will determine that.
And that's the reason why it's so important to get to not let a second wave happen. If you submit yourself to letting everybody go out there and put yourself out to be exposed to a second wave, then all these things we're talking about now don't mean anything.
Here's my last point, guys. Think about this. In the US, all the so-called experts who have been in all the media are basically now quarantined. Dr. Fauci, they have the CDC. There's a number of individuals who are the face of the country as to how we address this. They all quarantined because someone next to them got infected.
Yeah, that's the White House leak.
That's what you're talking about. So I think we have to take a step back and say, you know what? The virus will tell us when we do what we do. Let's not think that we control this. As humans beings think they control the planet, they control everything. No, you don't. You think you do.
So okay, so let's just go around for one final time and find out how this works. How does football come back, Tony? How do we get the Premiership to come back?
Glass half full. Think positive. Look at Germany. See what happens. Follow suit.
Bertram, how do we get football to come back?
Well, I think what you have to do is, as we've talked about for the larger society, is there's a combination of testing, contact tracing, quarantine, isolation. What you can actually do is, what Brighty's put this in the game, but I think what they're doing is asinine, which is you have locations which are almost remote where you're going to play the games. You have hotels close to those locations. You sort of find a way to disinfect all those hotels, including the people who are there. Everyone lives in the hotel, including the staff, by the way. Everyone lives in the hotel. You isolate. So, and you have guards, frankly, who are helping with that isolation. So you have this almost self-contained society amongst the players, right? And hope you can get all the players to buy in. And then you try, it's going to still be difficult to execute because as you talk about players' contracts, players' contract running out, these are the things you got to worry about. Players who don't want to play. That's the only way I see it, which is it's a really isolated. And then you spend like 3 weeks or so making sure players are actually negative. It's not 1 or 2 weeks, because this whole notion that after 2 weeks you're done, because I tested it. My kids here, I think, were infected. One was in quarantine for a month because he was still coughing after 3 weeks. Yeah, so it's not 2 weeks for everyone.
Yeah, it's not 2 weeks. It's
exactly.
It's not 2 weeks. And this is the thing. Some people have been battling. If we look at CNN's Chris Como, he went through six weeks of hell to recover. And the one thing he said which stood out was it's what it does to your body. Now, if you're a footballer and you're a prime athlete, and some of these people have had mild symptoms, Mikel Arteta said he was bothered for what, 7 to 10 days, and then he was fine. Some other people have not been like that.
Hasn't Ebola been positive for a month or 6 weeks or 2 months?
Something like that. But another thing, Mikel Arteta said his wife wasn't so lucky. He said that she had it worse than he did. But we all have it differently. So 2 weeks is just a ballpark figure. If we're talking about these 15 people in Germany, the 3 from Cologne who got caught, the 10 who got caught when they did the testing, and the 2 players in Dynamo who have now had the whole team quarantined for 2 weeks now, we have no idea what is going to happen with those players and how long they're going to recover. 2 weeks is just a ballpark figure, so you're completely right. But Ebony, before I go to you again, it's you know how I look at this. Ebony, I look at this as in when Donald Trump came into presidency, he said, "I'm going to get rid of Obamacare." He said, "We're going to make something. It's going to be great. It's going to be brilliant, and everyone's going to love it." He said that without even looking into the logistics and the intangibles of what it would take to get a healthcare system working. To me, that's how the FA have looked at this. They've gone, everybody, football's going to come back. It will be great. We're going to be playing football in June. It's going to be amazing. And then all these things that I've talked about, like the waivers players won't sign. The doctors and medical staff telling them it's going to take 3 weeks of training because the players aren't fit. The tests that the players have to have, how many of those are going to be negative? Contracts running out. No, the FA has not for 1 second put any of those equations in. They've just said, yeah, we're going to be playing football on the 1st of June.
Just like the government with this whole, or Boris Johnson with this whole thing about, how people are going to get back into society again. At the end of the day, if players feel that they don't feel unsafe to play, and everybody else if everyone's tested, this is what I mean about everyone being tested. Everyone needs to be tested first and foremost. Okay, wait for the results, find out who's healthy, find out who isn't healthy, and all the and even if there are players that are healthy, if they don't feel fit or they don't feel safe in order to play, then utilize those players who are able to play, who want to play. Okay, because and even if those players don't play, they can still contract it somewhere else, if so be the case.
And this is the thing, you mentioned the word contract, And I've
Yeah.
talked about players' contracts being extended, players having to sign waivers, which we already know now that the players have rejected. They will not sign waivers.
Of course. Why should they?
It's up to you as an individual whether you will sign a contract or not. Yeah, it's up to you as an individual. So there's no guarantees of even that happening.
Well, if contracts are running out, then you know, especially Arsenal contracts, you know, they need to be sorted out ASAP. Okay, before any form of playing even begins, those contracts need to be sorted out before a ball is kicked. Okay, we need to get them out. Remember what they said. You know, we're not going to let any players' contracts run down. Okay, well, fulfill that promise before a ball is kicked, before even one test is actually carried out. Sort that out, and then carry out your tests, find out who's healthy, find out who wants to play. Those who don't want to play because they don't feel safe, let them sit it out, let them go home, be with their families, let them quarantine for a bit further or for a bit longer, and then you know, by the 1st of June, if games need to be played behind closed doors, fine, then that's absolutely fine. But other than that, you know, if the FA haven't actually sat down and thought about things properly, then you might as well just scrap it and start again in August.
Yeah, and that's free. I want to say thanks to all of you guys. That's free, very intelligent and very deeply thought processes in terms of how we can deal with this right now. It's a very, very difficult subject, and tomorrow I feel sorry for the FA because they have to go in there and convince everyone to sign off on this. And I personally can't see a way that they can do that. And actually, considering the fact that we've learnt more in the last 7 days than we did a week ago, I personally think that they're going to come up against more road blocks tomorrow. I think that there's even more things that we don't know, more roadblocks that they're going to come up, which they have to overcome. I just think that they haven't thought this through. And honestly, for me, as the title says, football is facing an uphill battle to come back. And in many ways, I wouldn't mind, guys, if they just literally said, let's sacrifice next season to finish this season. I wouldn't even mind if they did that. And then sort of scheduled and planned next season without the FA Cup, without the League Cup, and just made it a shorter season per se, in order to just get this season finished. I wouldn't mind if they did that. There's big jokes going on in the chat now. I gotta give these guys in because they've been waiting. It starts with Rodney. Rodney's talking about FIFA. Oh my god. They'll be better off playing FIFA 20. Each team represented by the best player in the squad. I'm dead. Playing the game on Xbox One. Yeah, and you know, notice he said playing the game on Xbox One because that's the best console to play FIFA. Yeah, going back into even the Connect when you just had to tell the TV and the console what you wanted to do. Rather on PlayStation, we had to press pause, go into substitutes, go into the player you want, and then go into the player you want to come off, and then going back into the menu again. And with Xbox, when they had Connect, all you used to say is Xbox substitute Walcott for Riziki, and it will do it for you. Xbox, boy, way ahead. Even though I've got all the consoles, so I don't discriminate. But anyway, listen. Vinci is saying second wave will happen because the first wave set the groundwork for it. Yeah, and look, there's all of us here sitting down talking about how lovely and wonderful human beings are and how they always doing what they're told. No, yeah, human error is accountable for everything. Yeah, whether that is the coronavirus, yeah, whether that is Chernobyl, whether that is anything, bro. Human error. Yeah, look at them 737 Boeings that were nose diving into the ground because somebody decided to make that that computer system to tell the plane to dive when it was going through a certain flight pattern. So everything is I build computers, and I always say to people when they say, Apollo, come and help me, my computer's not working. I say to them, what have you done? Yeah, because computers are built to work. 99.6% of problems with computers are human errors. People deleting DLL files and doing all foolishness and going to all these sites with malware and all of whatever on them. Yeah, it's your dealings that has made the thing mash up in the first place. So listen, Kez is saying there's also players that would be, again, they're going to have to come, all these different things. Vince is there again on the FIFA tip. Everybody's on this FIFA thing. Why don't, listen, why don't we just put FIFA on Sky Sports and then let the games play out that way?
But FIFA's not real.
Computer versus computer. Yeah, let's just let the game play out now. Rodney's talking to Ebony. Hopefully he's not asking her out on a date. It's 18, me and you are going to have words, bro. Rodney's saying, they said any player with less than 2 years remaining and that's the reason why we have to. I mean, I'm hearing that Saka.
Why they need to fulfill their promise. I mean, the likes of Aubameyang, he's not signing apparently. He's still not signing apparently. If that's the case, bye-bye.
I'm hearing that Saka's coming for Liverpool. And if you're 18-year-old looking at a team like Liverpool, you're going to be filled with two issues there. One, it's a team that everybody would love to play for. Two, how the hell are you going to play for it? At left back, they got Robertson, which is probably the best left back in the league. Then up front, they've got Mane, Salah. Well, I got a text from, and I won't give his name because he's told me not to do that. One of the football agencies is saying that the player's agent has been in contact, and these things happen. I mean, look, if Saka doesn't sign a contract next January, he'll be allowed to leave. Whoa, 1 second.
Well, then this is where Arsenal need to hurry up, because Saka is a damn good player, and we need him. I don't care if he's 18, we need him.
Yeah, we have to have faith.
I'm trying to.
Yeah,
but this is Arsenal we're talking about.
My thing here is Aubameyang is probably gone, but Saka's been with the club since he was 9 years old. I believe that he loves Arsenal. I believe he wants to be a star at Arsenal, and I'm having faith that Saka will commit himself. However, his agent, his father, has probably already said to him, you need to know your worth, because Arsenal are trying to offer you a 5-year deal until you're 23 years old. You want to understand that man like Mbappe, is on 300 grand a week, 300 euros. Yeah, man, all these young players who was as good as you are.
He's 18 years old. He's 18 years old. Let him, develop at the club that he wants to, which is Arsenal. And this shouldn't be about money, but unfortunately, when you have agents money minded, because
Ebony, it should always be about money. I think in the UK, what I find very fascinating is how fans are so caught up in their team, they believe that the players should be obligated to the fans, forget about the team. Kroenke's worth $8 billion. If I'm Saka, I'm doing what Hudson-Odoi did. Hudson-Odoi held Chelsea over the barrel and went into the last moment to get his 150 or whatever he got from them. When if he signed before, he probably made 50 if he's lucky. So he's tripled his wages because he waited until the last minute to sign. That's what Saka, I think, is doing. Which is, I think he likes the club. He can't get into any of the top 60. He can't get in the top 4 teams. He just can't.
No, he can't. Yeah, because like I said, Liverpool want him, but he's not gonna start in that team. I've looked at it just isn't gonna work. He's Mane, Salah, Robertson at left back. Them guys, he ain't gonna play in that team. So why would he go? Well, Oxlade-Chamberlain isn't a starter for Liverpool. It would probably be to go and sit on the bench and get paid. But look, for me, have some faith. I think that he loves Arsenal, and I think he will sign a deal. But I stand to reason. I thought that about Nicolas Anelka, Tony, your mate, and he left. He left because the prospect of playing for a club like Barcelona or Real Madrid, if they come knocking, what are you gonna do?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
you're always gonna go.
Yeah, for real, man.
You say it like we're not accustomed to having that disappointment that our board are not going to do what they need to do. Being an Arsenal fan is like being a black person. You have to understand that you're going to have hardship no matter where you look at it.
Man said hardship.
Hardship comes part and parcel of being an Arsenal fan. Yeah?
Loving it. Guys, we're on our second topic now, and thanks for the first one. Again, guys, we'll know more after tomorrow's FA meeting, and I can't wait to see what happens. because the longer this goes on, I mean, realistically, they wanted them back in training last Monday, and we've lost a week. So we'll see what happens. Let's talk about Santi Cazorla. And guys in the chat as well, I'd love to know, would you take Santi Cazorla back? I'm just going to run through a few things here for those who are not aware. I know most of you are. But Cazorla looked like he hadn't lost a step last season. Yeah, he put together, when he left Arsenal and he started playing for Villarreal, he put 2,600 minutes together in his first year, putting together Arsenal-like stats with 4 goals and 10 assists. He followed that up with the next year, playing 1,800 minutes. He already had 8 goals and 6 assists. He's going to be 35 years old. He'll be on a free contract. But I think it's more about the staff, the coaching staff. He has said previously that he would look. The chat room is lighting up to Ras. Yeah, 18 is saying yes, he'll take him back. Tony, to hardship, yeah. Vincey's saying he'll take him back in a heartbeat. And Rodney, he should have never left. You know what, Rodney? I agree. I don't even know why they allowed him to leave. Maybe they thought that. And this is a real thing right now. Maybe they thought that he could never make it back. When a player goes through what he went through, you're taking a gamble on players like that. But, then restructure. In the NFL, when that happens, you restructure a player's contract. It's simple. Why these things don't happen in the Premiership is beyond me. We should have restructured his deal and then changed it so that he would remain. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. But, yeah, I mean, big shout out. Again, Vincey, I'd give... Again, yeah, that's what I do. I'd give him a player coach contract. I would, if he's putting them numbers up. Yeah, who in the midfield? You think Xhaka's putting them numbers up in the midfield? The fact that he's 35 years old, he's still got more pace than Xhaka. Tony, would you take Cazorla back, Tony?
Our heartbeat, mate. Literally, I'll go and pick him up from the airport.
Mad ting. Bertram, would you take him back?
So I thought the question was going to be Cazorla or my favorite player. I thought that was a
no, because
you have me all hyped up, and then I just get let down.
Because they'll play him at the Holding, wouldn't they? They'd have to play him next to.
No, he used to play there before Lazy came, and then he got moved back to play alongside the CM. That's where he used to play and contribute goals and assists. Look, I do think at the end of the day, Cazorla has been. It's interesting that the club has such an affinity for Cazorla, and there's people like Fabregas who pushed to leave, and we didn't want to take back, and people vacillate between whether or not they wanted to come back or not come back to the organization. Like, I think Cazorla left not because he wanted to leave, but because of his injuries. I think the club probably thought about Diaby and Wilshere and says, we can't really afford to take another risk. We have had that with some of our better players, and it hasn't benefited us. And it's a business. It's a business. And they had to make a business decision. But I think Cazorla, he wasn't running that much anyway. I mean, people talk about Cazorla. he's not the biggest statue in terms of a person on the field. He doesn't cover a ton of space. But when he has the ball, he's a magician with the ball. He always makes the right decision. He doesn't lose the ball. He's like a Barcelona player. And therefore, I think at 35, he's going to still be productive. And we should probably give him, as most people are saying, a player coach contract.
Yeah, I think that would be the best way forward. Rodney is now saying, we took a gamble on Diaby, Wilshere, Ramsey, Santos, plenty of injury-prone players, Apollo. Cazorla deserved to stay. He would have been offered more. Yeah, he would have. I mean,
Rodney made a mistake. Rodney made a mistake in his last point of his thing there. That WCMO, world class, not in the last 3-4 years. He said world class Mesut Ozil. Rodney obviously is a fan, Rodney, and I can appreciate you being a fan, but the Ozil that left Brazil after the 14 World Cup has not been the same Ozil.
It might not be the same, but like I said, he's still creating the chances. So, I'll take that. And if Cazorla, I'll take it, but I'll take Cazorla over him because Cazorla, is still banging in the goals. The one thing that disappointed me with Ozil last season is his inability to just take a shot on goal. He's got so much things in his locker. He can be that late running midfielder into the box, and he's just not the same player. And right now, if you're looking at Cazorla, who's 35 years old, 4 years older than Ozil, by the way, and you can get him on the free contract, and you can develop him as a coach as well. That's the important thing. Let him run through his coaching badges while he's at Arsenal, and you know, again, that kind of Spanish congregation that we've got working there. I would like Tony said. Tony, you know what, Tony? You can jump in my car and then we'll both go together and pick him up at the airport. Yeah, you can jump in my car and we could both go to the airport. Ebony, would you take him back?
Oh, definitely. Oh, hell yeah. The fact that I loved him as a player, I still do love him as a player. I think, yeah, why not bring him in as a player coach? I mean, he's still got it. All right, you know, he's not the fastest runner, he's not the tallest of players, but you know what he does is that he makes those kind of passes. Imagine Smith
Rodney. Well, I missed that, Rodney. It went over my head. So,
hey Rodney, you threw that one up there, and Bertram dunked it, mate. He dunked it.
But no, I think he, you know, taking into consideration he's got skill, and even when he stops playing, you know, he still has something to give. And I think as a player coach, he has something to give. You know, he can come on as a substitute. Why not? You know, if he's still banging in the goals, why not bring him back? I'd bring him back.
I think the biggest positive of Cazorla is how much he actually loves the club and desire, I think, to be associated with the club. You could hear it in terms of when he gets interviewed and his comments that he's very sorry that he had to leave because of the injury. Because he talked about how the club is the biggest club he's played for and his affinity for the club. It's very clear that it's someone who has a club at heart, and therefore, given his abilities, we should consider bringing him back.
While you're on that subject, isn't that the case with a lot of players, though, Bertram? Isn't that the case with Podolski? He said that to Ian Wright. Szczesny came out 2 weeks ago and said the worst thing that I did in my life was get, you know, that smoking thing, which is what he got riddled for, and the reason why they got rid of him at Arsenal. All these guys have regrets about what they could have been at Arsenal. And, you know, he's not the only one. I mean, the Szczesny thing is really sad because you were just being a dick. You were just being immature. And, you know, and to a point, to an extent, Jack Wilshere, how many times did Jack Wilshere get caught smoking? I mean, come on.
Loads.
Yeah, but guys, I think when you're in your early 20s, I'm sorry, and you're a millionaire, it's hard not to get yourself in trouble. That may sound strange to say, but it's hard not to get yourself in trouble.
But Bertram, it's only the British players that do it. Well, Szczesny came up in the Arsenal ranks, so I give him that.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
What about him? What about him, Tony?
Did not Michael Jeffrey Jordan used to gamble and smoke?
He used to
as being the greatest player that ever played the game of basketball. The Last Dance is showing us something about this guy that we never knew.
We knew. We actually knew. We just didn't focus on it.
Yeah, we just didn't focus on it. But the one thing I must say, he did say that his drinking didn't start until he retired. The smoking and all of that stuff, that was fine. But because people were saying, why is his eyes so red? He's unhealthy. And a lot of that is because he's saying, look, you know, even one of the doctors was saying he's got liver problems because of the drink. He's an excessive drinker.
Can I give you another name? Have you ever read the story of a guy called Michael Tyson?
Oh yeah. Well, he didn't do
in his entire lifetime. To the point that he now owns his own cannabis factory. But this guy was drunk.
Yes, he does.
Every day of the week that he wasn't fighting.
Listen.
He wasn't fighting.
I knew there was a reason why he went to bite off Holyfield's ears. You know, no man would do that unless he's been sniffing up, man. I'm gonna bite this mother's ears off. You know?
Got the list.
Oh man, mad. All right, guys, listen. Thierry Henry's top 3 goals. Yeah, guys in the chat as well. I want to find out first of all, what's your top Henry 3 goals, or what's your best Henry goal? And do you agree with the panel? Yeah. do you agree with the panel? Is the main thing. Yeah. Tony, you want to take this one
best
first?
Goal for where? For what? For France? For Arsenal for what?
Arsenal.
MLS?
Arsenal.
Okay.
Arsenal.
Oh, that's a
Arsenal.
good
Arsenal.
question. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Arsenal. We don't care about what he does with everybody else.
But you said Harry's top 3 goals. You didn't say what competition.
Yeah, top 3 goals for the Gooners. Tony, you want to go first or shall I go? You can think about it while I go ahead.
I know my top 3 already.
There's no such thing as a top 3, guys. There's no top 3.
Tony, wouldn't it be
top 10?
Tony, wouldn't it be funny if it turns out all 3 of us all 4 of us actually have the same top 3s?
Listen, Bertram is just
I doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Every time you say something, he's going to say something to the country.
No, I agree with you last week, Tony. Didn't you and I agree last week?
Okay, listen, we've already got that.
His best goal by a country.
I have my top 5. I don't have a top 3.
He runs against Tottenham, and he turns up Sol Campbell, and he scores an absolute screamer of a goal. That is, if anybody doesn't think that is his best goal, something's wrong with you.
No, that's not his best goal. That's not his best goal.
See, I knew Bertram would be a contrarian.
No, it's not his best goal. Look, there are a number of goals. His best goal has to be the Liverpool goal. And the reason why the Liverpool goal is when he reached the top of the 18, there was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to go to the top of the 18. Think about it. It's going from midfield. The players are backing off. 2 or 3 players come and go by them. Get to the top of the box, and it's a wall, block. He fakes, and my man is diving. The defender became a diver. He's stumbling all over the place. So, to me, I watched the Tottenham goal. I did comparison. The Tottenham goal, Sparta Bar goal, goal against Man U when he's giving a kick.
It's Tottenham.
No, it's
It's
Liverpool.
Tottenham.
Liverpool.
That's why it was important.
That's a rivalry suggestion. That's rivalry.
I think you forgot, yeah? There's a guy at the end of that run who has the bun pass, and that guy is a guy called Sol Campbell.
Pull it up. Pull up the goals. I'm sorry. Pull the goals up. Pull the goals up right now. Show it.
All right, listen. Let's
Pull the
stay on
goals
track.
up.
Let's stay on track. Tony, you got to give me your 3 goals before you do.
One,
Hold on, Tony. We've got Stuart saying the Borough volley, United. The goal past Barthez on a swivel, Real Madrid, brilliant. Nice one, Stu. Solid.
Stuart is definitely on track because the Barthez is number 2. The Barthez swivel and volley, world class.
So guys, you and I.
Let me speak.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Let me speak now. Get me 3 going out here.
All right, Tony, the floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Okay. Number 3, it's got to be Real Madrid because no one has beat no English team has won in the Bernabeu. At this point in time, no English team has ever won in the Bernabeu. Step up, Mr. Henry.
Big player, big goals.
Sergio Ramos is at the back there, isn't it?
Yeah. Big player, big goals in big games, man. Jeez. This guy, wow, 18 is saying his comeback goal against Leeds. That's interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say that, one of those.
All right, Bertram. Tony, thanks for that. Some solid picks there. I think a lot of our picks are intertwined. I will tell you that the Barthez one struggled to make my top 3. That was my 4th, but it didn't make the top 3 for me. Bertram, you got the conch, man.
So I think I'm going to take them in reverse order. My number 3 struggled between Sparta Prague when he beat Ian's record. I think it was a goal against Southampton. No, I'm sorry, the Man U goal. I think a second.
The Barthez
wait, Inter Milan. There's so many goals. I'm telling you guys, the Inter Milan goal when he ran the half of the field, stopped, faced the defender up, fake right, went back left and scored. That's also a great goal. My philosophy on a great goal is
Real Madrid.
Wait. My philosophy on a great goal is this. What did the player do to create that goal? There's one thing to spin and kick the ball. We all can get lucky and do that. But what were the obstacles in my face that precluded me or trying to prevent me from scoring? And then eventually I scored. What did I have to overcome? The Barthez goal, he spun. It was a quick, sharp kick. How many obstacles was there? The Liverpool goal, frankly, is why I did a comparison with Liverpool and Tottenham. So they're both from midfield. He had to dribble half the field. There was about 6 defenders in front of him. They were backing up, granted, but when he got to the top of the box, there was a wall. There's no place to go. Couldn't shoot, do anything, and somehow he found a way to swizzle his way and score. So that's my top goal, the Liverpool goal. Tottenham came second, and maybe Inter, Real Madrid, Man U, Sparta Prague, they're all fighting for third. But what it does say is that, and I looked at a lot of tapes before we had the discussion, not just the goals, by the way, the completeness of the player, which is ridiculous. I'm not sure what people did comparing who's been the best forward in the league in terms of a complete player. He was amazing in terms of skill, pace, control, ingenuity. He just had all the capabilities. But my top goal is the Liverpool goal. Especially, I think was it Jamie Carragher who was swimming? I forgot who the player was, but somebody was doing ballet and swimming all at the same time when he scored that goal. He has a lot of amazing goals. It's hard to pick one.
Well, Ebony, this is quite a challenge. I did think that we were going to come out with different goals, but it's variably the same.
One of my favourite goals from Henry was that goal that he scored against, I think it was Charlton, where he was the net was at this on his left hand side, and somehow he managed to get that ball swinging into the net. I can't describe it, but it's one of those goals whereby you thought that the ball was going to go into the side of the net, but it ended up being in the back of the net. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that was one of his best goals. Any goal against Tottenham, standard. Just pick a goal against Tottenham. It's up there, and the Real Madrid goal. Really, it's just pure class. But that goal against Charlton, in which everybody thought, oh, he's hit the side of the net, and it just managed to just bend into the back of the net.
Yeah.
That is my special. That's like my all-time favorite goal above anyone else. I don't care if it's against Charlton. It is the way he got the ball and he executed practically on his own that ball without any assistance or any assist. It just dipped into the side. It just found its way. Let me just go where I'm supposed to go.
There's so many quality goals. Well, the Barthez one didn't make it into my top 3, and quite frankly, I'm surprised because one of my favorite goals used to be the Roma goal, where he gets the ball on the side and hits it on the outside of his foot, and it curls in, and everyone's just standing up thinking, "What is he doing?" That Roma goal, I'm shocked it hasn't made it into my top 3. But anyway.
Yeah, I was there. Remember it well, mate.
And the thing is, I think everybody in Europe.
That night in the city of Rome, I conceived my third child.
Yeah. Who's ever scored a goal like that? I mean, talking about coming out of nowhere, I think everybody was surprised at what he was actually doing. It was just phenomenal. But let's go to the board first, man. Kez is saying his number 3 is the Leeds return. So that's the third person that said the Leeds return after his retirement and he came back. His number 2 is the Liverpool goal, and number 1 is the Real Madrid goal. Vince is saying where is it? Best Henry goal was off his knees. Which one was that off his knees? Was that not the West Ham one? Which was the one he scored? It was the West Ham one, wasn't it? Anyway, you'll have to elaborate on that. Arsenal Vlogs is saying number 1 Real Madrid, number 2 Man United for Liverpool. Which Man United? Was it the one where Ibui did the cross and it was in the 92nd minute and it was 1-1, and then he crossed the ball into the box and Henry out-jumped Vidic and Rio Ferdinand. He out-jumped about 3 defenders and blasted it past the goalkeeper. That was in the last minute of the game, actually. And it might be that one, or it could be so many. He scored so many great goals. The Barthez one. All right, okay, yeah, the Barthez. Yeah, we're going back to the Barthez, which didn't make it into my top 3. So for me, guys, number 3 was Tottenham, and again, very much the same as the Liverpool goal, where he picks the ball up just outside of his penalty area on the flank, and he dribbles the whole length of the field. He must have passed 6 players. And it just the dummies and the shimmies. I mean, for me, Henry scoring that goal against Tottenham was like watching Barry Sanders run an 80-yard. They used to call Barry Sanders a grease pig, didn't they? Because you had your hands on him, you think you got him tackled, and then he just slips out and just gets out of your hand. To me, that Henry goal against Spurs was like watching Barry Sanders for the Detroit Lions just make one of his runs. And if you thought that was good, number 2 was the Liverpool goal, which essentially he did the same thing. And it was like watching Adrian Peterson run for a 100-yard touchdown. The difference between the Tottenham and the Liverpool goal, and why the Liverpool goal is special, was because the Liverpool goal, unlike Tottenham, you actually see players in the box falling over themselves like the Keystone Cops, players running into each other. Yeah, if you watch them cartoons, them Warner Brothers, Hanna-Barbera cartoons where they're chasing people and you got 2 of the villains running into each other, smack bang, and make it that reminded me of just a scene like that, watching Henry just running rings around them or watching these players falling and tripping over themselves trying to tackle him. Absolutely brilliant. But the number 1 goal, I agree with Tony, I agree with Ebony, I agree with a lot of you in the chat. It is the goal against Real Madrid. Nobody had gone into there and done that in the British team before. It was an awesome display of power and skill that left the Santiago Bernabeu in a stunned silence. If you could have heard a pin drop. Go and watch the game again. Yeah. And remember, listen, that was the game that one of the greatest saves I've ever seen, Jens Lehmann, yeah, one of the greatest, one of the most underrated saves in the history of football, where Jens Lehmann made that save. I don't even know why people don't talk about that more often. But to me, Thierry Henry not only alerted us that he was probably the best player in the world at the time, but he also alerted Barcelona to say, if you can do that for Arsenal, we want you to come to Barcelona and do that against Real Madrid in the La Liga. And after that few years, he was gone. Yeah? That was the goal that lost Arsenal Thierry Henry, because Barcelona were never going to take no for an answer. And for me, that put him on the map. So that's my top 3, man.
So my only point would be on that, Apollo, which is, don't disagree that we could all come up with our favorite goal. But the difference between the most important, most significant, and the top goal in terms of what it required to score the goal. So I think his top goal is his handball against Ireland, frankly.
We're gonna have Irish fans going mad in the forum, right? All right. Irish fans in the chat, please calm down for a second. Don't throw your cup and your utensils out of the window. Calm down for a second. Keep it cool. Keep it 100. Keep it 101. Mad thing.
So let me get
Stop it.
up then. Apollo, next week are we doing Robert Perez's favorite goals? Because I got a whole bunch of goals to choose from there.
Yeah, we can do Perez next week. We can do Perez. Yeah, we can definitely do that, because I mean, as far as a goal scored, there's 2 goals, and I'm talking general. There's 2 goals that really stand out to me, and one is the Ozil goal in the Champions League, where he runs past the whole team. He dummies and then he slips it past in between 2 defenders. The coolness and poise of that goal. And the other one was the Robin Van Persie goal against, was it Charlton or Middlesbrough, where he runs onto it and hits the volley coming from the corner. I think it was against Charlton. Was it Middlesbrough? I think it was Middlesbrough, where he runs on and he does that Shaolin Kung Fu Wu-Tang kick into the quarter neck. I mean, how many people in the world would have scored that goal, man?
No, I think we should do our favorite goal, our favorite Arsenal goal. I have my favorite, and it's not an individual goal.
That's difficult.
No, it's not difficult.
No, it's not difficult. I have my favorite.
I have my favorite. Yeah, we all listen. No, I've got one goal that is probably the best goal I've ever seen in my entire history of existence, and we all know who it is. We all know who he is, and we all know who it was against. And it's probably the most replayed Arsenal goal that we've ever seen. We can do a top 3, so that's fine. We can do a top 3, man. All right, listen, guys. Listen, guys. That's not the end, because Tony wants to talk about the UFC comeback. I mentioned
it enough already.
Are you sure? Okay, so we don't have to talk about it, but I want to say it was a brilliant fight. I was a little perplexed at the end when I didn't hear any crowd noise, but I didn't need that because when I was watching the fight, the energy in the fight was just, I was
Amazing.
exhausted. Yeah, it was amazing. I was exhausted at the end of it. And normally, I think in sports, it's not just the event itself that we've become accustomed to loving. It's the after, it's the pundits' analysis of what's happened. It's the crowd's reaction. It's that kind of wasn't really there. Yeah, even after the fight, he done cussed the man when who interviewed him. He done cussed the man who interviewed him. And look, he was just saying, and I need to point this out. I watched the Raid Redemption last night. Gareth Evans. If any of you guys haven't checked out Gangs of London, check it out. Sky Atlantic and HBO. Gareth Evans, his first film was an Indonesian movie called The Raid Redemption. And what he was trying to do was show the West the influx of Indonesian martial arts. And I'm a big martial artist, and it just incorporates so many different styles: Wing Chun, Brazilian Kung Fu, Aikido, so many different styles. And when you saw this guy fight last night, I mean, he said one thing. He said one thing that a guy from Raid Redemption said. He said, "When I get into the ring and I feel the pulse and I feel my heartbeat and my adrenaline go up, that's the place that I want to be. That's where I'm the most happiest in the world." And very rarely do you hear fighters talk like that. So a few boxers, Tyson used to say it, yeah? One of my favorite boxers of all time, Michael Nunn, who was a black belt in karate. Michael Nunn, middleweight, he used to say that. He used to say, "I only feel like I'm alive when I'm in the ring." And that's what he said. And if you saw the fight, you would have seen how passionate he's a different person when he was in the ring. Just absolutely brilliant. Bertrand, did you see the fight?
No, and I do have ESPN Plus. I could get the fight, but I watch boxing. I don't really watch UFC that much. I sort of watch more boxing, not UFC. And I don't want to support Dana in any way, shape, or form. I'm not a Dana fan. He's a Trump supporter, frankly. So I'm just not a Dana fan. And Dana does anything to benefit Dana, and I don't want to support Dana. So I stayed away from it. But I can understand why he probably got a lot of buys. It's probably the only sporting event apart from South Korean mask wearing baseball, and show you how desperate we are for sports.
And Belarus football.
We don't get Belarus football here, but how desperate we are. We're showing South Korean baseball league. So there is an appetite for sports which is unmatched. Yeah. And it was interesting to see that Dana, smart enough to realize that he would financially make a lot of money from this and definitely went on a path, and it worked out well for him.
Massive props. And can I just say, on the UFC, massive props. Yeah, yesterday they did a tribute to George St. Pierre, who was inducted, who's been nominated to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. That tribute to George St. Pierre just made me realize, wow, what a guy he was. That you need to, if you haven't seen it, watch the tribute to George St. Pierre. Awesome.
George St. Pierre, you know, I'm a big comic book fan. He played Batok in was it the Winter Soldier movie, Captain America: Winter Soldier? He played Batok there. Who's one of the top antagonists in as far as Marvel villains goes and fighting styles. And that scene where Captain America jumps out of the plane into the ocean when the guy was saying he doesn't need a parachute, and he gets on the ship and he has a fight with that guy on there. That was
George St. Pierre.
Yeah, it's a proper fighter. Fighter, man. So you know, and the thing is, I think what we can take from that, Tony, is all of those events that are pay-per-view really have a time to shine. This is where people are the most desperate, and you would make millions and billions on pay-per-view right now. And if last night showed us one thing, is that there definitely is even more of a hunger for pay-per-view events.
For sure.
And I don't.
I mean, I was speaking with one of my my boxing colleagues this morning. I had a show this morning, and he was saying, you know, listen, the Saudis right now are like queuing up to host big time boxing, because you know that Fury against Wilder could be ages. but they're saying they want to pay for Fury Joshua right away.
Wow.
Right away.
Yeah, they're into it, man. They're into it. They've lost a lot of money on Formula One. Formula One, they've committed a lot of money to in the Far East, and they're not going to be getting that cash. So it doesn't surprise me. They're really hot on it, and they're definitely going to throw a lot of money at pay-per-view events now, especially boxing. So don't be surprised if that thing starts to light fire, man. They got in, and the thing is, they can entertain like nobody else. You know.
Yeah,
So,
I think if you're in those sports, I think what's most important to you is the upward trend. So, for example, you have UFC may not have certain fans, but the fans now will come in to watch this because it's the only event in town, and the carrier effect is what you want as a Dana White. You want people to start following your sport, become fan of the sport, and will buy your sport. So he can bring. It's like when it's the Super Bowl. All these fans will watch his event, and some will stick, some will not stick, but you have a larger audience going forward. So he's a smart businessman, but not my favorite person.
Excellent. Ebony, any closing discussions from you?
Well, you know, you might as well say the Premier League scrapped. Just get on with life. Do what you got to do. You know, I mean, there's plenty of stuff to do out there. Yes, you know, just bite the bullet and just start again next season, and just enjoy the rest of the time until September or August when it starts again. But you know, I think people need to let it go, unless you're a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, and actually, did you guys see that message I sent to you where Liverpool was talking about, and this is the club statement, was saying about how they want football to come back, but when it came to the Women's League, they were saying it should be scrapped. That is so double standard.
These are Liverpool fans, yeah.
Oh,
that makes a lot of sense,
league.
though. That makes a lot of sense. Two for one is the women's team is not winning anything, and second of all, they're not making any money. They're probably a cost center versus a money-making part of the organization.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, the financial implications of not playing is massive, right? You still got to pay your players, and there's no revenue coming in. The books have to balance. We lost, 27 mil last year?
We're going to
lose
lose
the balance.
Yeah, we're probably going to lose somewhere around 50,
I mean,
45, 50 million.
Playing behind closed doors, you know, isn't going to benefit anybody really, because, you know, where does the money come from? The fans. Ultimately,
no, it will benefit,
you know,
because I think what people fail to realize is that they make much more money from TV, because we only talk about Sky. Sky is just one component. This is global. NBC pays here, Asia pays, Africa pays. There's so much money from all parts of the world coming in, much more than a fan and concession revenues.
Yeah, don't forget.
But then the problem with playing behind closed doors.
We're about to embark on a bidding war for football again very soon.
Of course,
the whole spectrum is changing. Because now we've got Disney and we've got all these other big bodies playing in the media market. So whereas before we only had Sky versus terrestrial TV, now we've got Sky versus BT versus terrestrial TV. And now we're going to have Sky versus Amazon versus da-da-da versus da-da-da. We're likely to see a really amazing.
I think so, because the Amazon Prime.
It's probably about who can pay the most money, though, isn't it? At the end of the day,
Netflix.
The Amazon Prime was the most watched on there. Yeah, the Amazon Prime was one of the most watched on their streaming service all year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all year.
It's like a Man City owners, right? You're trying to build your brand. You sacrifice some financial loss now for the larger goal of building your brand, building up your business, and that's what the Amazons will do. That's what the YouTubes will do. You want to bring people to your platform, so you'll sacrifice. You may even have a loss on the PL, so long as the PL is bringing the fans in for your other products. So, yeah.
I'm just going to find out how they're going to do this, and it really concerns me, because all the foolishness that we've been listening to, for them to, quite frankly, put square peg in round holes. I want to see what football looks like when it's back. And again, I told Tony, I'm not going back to the Emirates. You must be joking. My wife asked me that question last week. I took one look at her and said, babe. And she was like, okay, I just wanted to know that he was going to give me the right answer. Because I don't think my wife would.
Let me give you an analogy. If they say that after a month of behind closed doors games, we will allow 10,000 fans into the Emirates.
Yeah.
To be spread around different parts of the ground, so there's good social distancing. And bearing in mind, in a month's time, everybody's on the street anyway. Are you going to be saying, nah, I still don't want to go?
Well,
10,000, we'll have 50,000 fans saying, yeah, I'll take that 10,000. I'll be part of that.
Yeah, I don't think I will. I don't think I will. I mean, right now, I'm resigned to the fact that a lot of sports in America as well, the commissioners, only Trevor Booking has said that over here from the FA. We haven't really heard much else coming out, but they reckon that's as far as fans and sports goes, 2021. And I think it's really, I think it's realistic.
I think people just need to be realistic and understand that. Yes, I mean, there's means and ways around it, but
realistic. But if everybody's
I'm saying 2022. I'm saying 2021.
You're just a contrarian, aren't you?
no, Tony.
A vaccine is 18 months, Tony. Remember this. Supposedly based on no
vaccine.
We don't have a vaccine for AIDS. We have a vaccine for a lot of diseases.
Did you see any footage of this VE Day celebration? There was street parties, bruv. There was
but hell yeah.
Yeah, street parties.
I've seen them.
Street parties, which I won't be attending. Street.
Can I just point out that nobody complained about the street parties, but then I don't know whether how much you guys look at Twitter, but there's a journalist called Andrew Pierce, and he was complaining about in a roundabout way, complaining about Diwali, Eid celebrations, but not a single word was said about the VE celebrations. Now that to me just smacks racism right there. You know, at the end of the day, why are you complaining about Eid? And I've not even seen any Eid celebrations, by the way, because a lot of these celebrations have to be done behind closed doors. And even if there were celebrations, they were in their houses anyway. But nobody's saying anything about London fields being packed out, VE Day celebrations carrying out on the street, other parks being packed out. Well, maybe people are complaining, but not en masse.
Okay,
so hold on, Tony. Here's what I'm curious about. How do you get to 2021 day? What's the basis for you saying 2021?
Well, this is just what some commissioners of sporting bodies have been saying around world sports, let alone the US.
And that's based on what's their expertise to determine that they're going to be 2021? What's those commissioners' expertise?
I think that expertise is just based on what they've heard from the CDC and other governing bodies. And I think
CDC is clueless. I keep telling people this. We've gotten guidance from the CDC here. And some of those guidance has been rubbish.
I agree,
but
the thing is, what you have to remember: NHS, World Health Organization, CDC, they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying that all mass gatherings are a write-off for this year.
I'm saying they haven't told me how I get to 2021 and start gathering. That's what I haven't heard. Which is, everyone use a date in the future to give the optimistic view as to how we're going to get to a good place and go back to normal. I haven't heard anything that suggests. Now I know Oxford has a vaccine trials that's pushing forward pretty quickly.
Yeah, they've already got the
vaccine. If we get a vaccine, there's no crowd gathering. People will do it, but they'll pay the consequences for it.
Yeah,
they're not doing that on the underground, are they?
Yeah, then they're not doing it. Look, I told you, I've still got my Jill Scott tickets for July. I'm still holding out, man.
Listen, I'm still holding out for my holiday to Jamaica in June. It probably won't happen.
And then, and then you've got a 14-day quarantine to come. Do you know what? Listen, I've got a text. Where's my phone? I got a text here from a football agent this morning. And he said to me, and I didn't want to talk about this in the show because this is yet another complication which the FA have to deal with. And I just thought it's enough already without having to go into too much. The text says, UK government's permitting a 14-day quarantine to the UK. There are currently 39 foreign footballers out of the country, including Richarlison, and he's mentioned a few other names. what's going to happen when those guys are coming back into training for their teams?
They're going to have to go into quarantine.
They have to, because that's the law.
They
Yeah,
have to. They have to.
but yet they're trying to get football to come. They're trying to get them back into training. I mean, look,
it's all about money, though, isn't it? It's all about that.
It's not a big number, though.
Let's just.
Players, most of them players, you know, who are they? A lot of them
probably the quality players, because they're not British.
yeah, they're not British. We know that. What's the guy? The Tottenham guy, Song. He's doing military. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. But the fact of the matter is, before this quarantine came into place, teams up until yesterday were expecting those players to come back into the facilities and start working on the programs, which they've been doing with other teams. Ain't gonna happen. Anyway, let's see what happens in tomorrow's meeting. I am gonna be so interested to see how that turns out, because, like I said, that's like the FA sorting this out is like watching Trump trying to get a healthcare service going.
It's not gonna happen. It's just gonna be a talk for talk's sake.
Yeah, true.
Shall we have a show on Tuesday to talk about it?
Yeah, we could do, because it's going to be something to discuss. So if it's, I tell you what, let's have a look at what news comes out, and then when it comes out, we'll do a midweek show. Yeah, we'll do a midweek show. Yeah.
Will that be televised? Will that be televised?
I don't know. Normally, it's not. The last two meetings they've had haven't been televised.
Okay.
The only thing we got from the last one was David Ornstein was there, and he was talking directly to everybody on Twitter. That's how we got all that information about the things that they were presenting. And this is where we are. The FA actually didn't know half of these problems. It was the media, sports writers, that asked him these questions, and the FA was like, what are you going to do when the player's contract? Yeah, what are you going to do when a player's contract runs out on the 31st of July? What are you going to do if a player goes down with corona and gets ill and gets seriously ill? That they didn't know. That's why we're hearing all these things about signing waivers and all these things, because the FA they haven't got a clue. They haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying tomorrow we might actually have more intangibles. Yeah. More logistical issues that come to light that they haven't brought up. Because
and also we might have more on that on the extension of Boris Johnson's speech, because what he said in 15 minutes is a load of BS. So we'll learn more. We'll possibly learn more tomorrow.
Because another thing, like I said to you guys last week, it was not the French league that cancelled themselves. It was the French government that said there will be no sports until September, and the British government are within their rights to say there will be no Premier League until a certain date. They haven't done that yet. In fact,
they're
Boris
not going to.
I don't think they're going to, because Boris said last week about how much the country needs to have sports back. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to let the FA make their own decision, because like Bertram said, no one wants to put their foot out, because if something goes wrong. Yeah, remember what I said to you last week? It's all fun and games until somebody starts crying. And then when everyone's looking for the blame, everyone's hiding behind the bush.
Well, I think the biggest thing from all of this will be the hindsight view, right? It's like going to war. In a difficult situation, you have to make tough decisions. And hindsight, everyone will scream and say, that is ridiculous. You made a bad decision. It's not acceptable. And you can get prosecuted. It will be the hindsight view across the globe about how this was handled, including the sports team. I think what the Premier League has to be very concerned about, as we've talked about here, is if someone actually get hurt from what transpires and implications to, lawsuits, reputational risk, those are going to be primary concern for them. And that's why I see here in the US, people are much more cautious, because we don't have those caveats here and those restrictions on lawsuits. People here, it's a litigious environment. People like to sue and get paid.
And suing is where this thing is rife. That one of the guys said to me, that's the reason why the NBA is not given a date to come back, because, and listen, my team, the Utah Jazz, we had the first two cases with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, and it's just a logistical nightmare to even. Nobody wants to go first, and that's why the German league is so important, because, as Tony alluded to, it is a model to find out what we're going to do. How many changes can we make in order to work? We already know one team has gone into quarantine, and the whole staff, not just the team, the whole back office, everybody, for 2 weeks. How is that going to play out? Because already their schedule is going to start to fall behind, and the schedules are already condensed. So we have to wait to see what happens.
Unless the government gives immunity to, like, sports teams, for example, these organizations, and basically pass laws to say you can't sue them. Imagine being a fan and going to a game, contracting the virus, and unfortunately dying. Then are you open to litigation? Because you shouldn't have convened that event and then expose people. And people may say you made up your own volition. So you're going to have waivers for fans. You're going to have how does that all work?
Wow.
There's so much complications to think about. And if you're here in the States, any company that you are, the first thing you think about is, can I get sued? What's my financial risk? What's my reputational risk? Those combinations can actually put you out of business.
So look, there's one thing that Boris talked about today, and I'm going to bring Stephen OT in here as well, because Stephen's saying just one thing in regards to authority. I'm on the road legally in Ireland, and all I see is government people not adhering to social distancing. And we can go back to when Scotland first went into lockdown. 48 hours after, a Scottish government spokesman was caught going to her second home twice, and she actually ended up resigning over this. 9 Premiership footballers have been caught. That's caught. There's others going out there as well. Yeah. So the biggest problem is people following the rules. That is where this thing is going to fall down. And Boris today was very stern in his words when he was setting his roadmap out, that if one thing doesn't work, I'm giving you this. If you don't give me back this, if you abuse what I'm giving you, we're going straight back to lockout. And I said this because the video that I did on YouTube yesterday stated that in America, when Trump said, I want to see 14 days of a downhill trend, and everyone just went, oh, okay, that means that we're fine to go out then, and everyone's just gone out. You have to be strict with because there's no control in America.
There is no strict, though, is there, Dean? The point is what Boris said today is he's released everyone to just go out willy-nilly, because he's basically said you're free to go out and do what you want when it comes to exercise now. There's no restriction,
Yeah.
And he's also said, if you can't work from home, go to work tomorrow.
Yes.
Not next week.
But then that's just open to abuse.
Let me work this out.
Sorry, Tony, didn't he say Wednesday? Didn't he say starting from Wednesday?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
I thought I heard him say Wednesday.
If you can't work from home, go to work. So guess what that means? If I'm a barber, I can't work from home, but I can as hell work in my shop. So the government has just basically said, go.
So Boris has a twin. I actually didn't realize Boris had a twin, but now I do. He does have a twin. And we're seeing the twin working. We're seeing how the twin is working. It's not a good picture. It's not a good picture at all.
Look, at the end of the day, he's the only leader. My wife talked about this when I was talking to her about it after the conference. He's the only leader that's caught the virus. And some of the things that he is saying, he's scared. He's lived through it. Very few other leaders have.
He's not the only leader, because Trudeau caught it as well.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And also Mike Pence has caught it as well. I know he's not the
leader.
Mike
Pence is not a leader.
Mike Pence caught it. I actually didn't know he caught it. I know his aide caught it. Did he catch it?
I don't think
I think his aide did. Stephen Miller did. Stephen Miller is the architect behind all this immigration stuff.
Oh, he's the architect behind a whole lot more than that, man.
Stephen Miller is the architect. He's an architect. Not the one that does buildings.
Tony, you know exactly what. Listen, at the end of the day, it really comes down to us. And what I got from Boris today was that if we don't follow the rules, he's going to dial it back. And that's very difficult to do, because businesses have forfeited. Everybody has forfeited 2 months of freedom of their lives and earnings and economy.
But then a lot of people have actually over the past 2 months.
Have to do.
But over the past 2 months, a lot of people have bucked the trend anyway. So it's no difference to certain people, to a number of people out there. People for the past 2 months, because of Boris Johnson, because of his attitude in the beginning, people have taken on that mantra and therefore thought, well, if Boris is not taking it seriously and he's shaken hands with many coronavirus patients and taking it on the chin, then I'm gonna adopt that same attitude too. And they've been doing that since day one.
Well, we have to see if this second wave comes. We'll know as time goes on, but we'll have to see how it goes, man. And guys, listen, I'm going to leave it right there for today. Thank you very much to the panel. Tony, we can find you on
at Pugilist Boy on the IG, on the Twitter, on the Facebook.
Excellent. Bertram, we can find you on
101
forums.
Forum.
And Ebony, we can find you on
101 Facebook and occasionally Twitter and Insta.
And also, guys, if you're on the forums with her, she has her own radio show. I tuned into your show last week. I sent you a request as well.
I did. I played it as well.
Yeah, it was intro.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'll be doing. It's on for Ferrity actually. I'll be there on Sunday. I'll be talking about this whole thing. And I'll also be taking requests as well. So yes, but I shall send you all the link.
So guys, for me, I'm going to be out playing basketball this week because that's what I like doing in my spare time. Have you guys got any plans to go out and do some exercising? And any of you lot going to be, Tony, you're going to be training doing boxing?
Yes, as always.
Bertram, you're going to be shooting
I just told my contractor to turn my garage into a gym. And he asked me if I haven't heard about social distancing, and he's not doing anything for a while. So.
Hey, listen.
So I think I'll be locked down for a while without workout.
Hey, listen. I'm going to have acupuncture treatment this week. So my barber said to me, when I said to my barber, "What's going on with your timings and when you're going to open?" He was like, "That ain't going to happen, bro." But then I talked to my lady who does my acupuncture, and she's like, she's fine because actually my acupuncture lady is from China and she teaches students and doctors over there. And actually, when this pandemic first broke, she actually gave me treatment in my intestines to help build up my immunity against corona. So she's looking forward to seeing me again this week. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Yeah, she's given us I can't even talk about this because my wife knows all about it, but she's given us some herbal stuff to emit viruses in the house and all that. So when you smell it, it smells like spliff, man. But this thing smell like Bushmaster. But sometimes my wife has got that burning. And boy,
work in China, only outside of China.
No, it works. I mean, she's using some of the treatments that they've used to curb a lot of the infections there. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. But listen, guys, love to the input from all of you in the chat. Appreciate your company. We do this because of you. You are the thing that drives this show. So thank you, everybody. You mean everything to us, and it's all about you guys. Big shout out to everybody on 101 forums as well. And listen, peace, and I'm out.
President's blood.
Yeah.